This is Ritter from the Ritter Entertainment blog coming to another edition of movie reviews and observations. So the first movie I watched this week was Rock Dog 2, and they gave it the treatment of Open Season as the biggest example of a very good children's, movie about, fitting in or helping others, the typical cliche childhood lessons, and they do it with stories about animals. And it's famous that if you ever watch Open Season 2 through 5, whatever it is, they change the voice cast either every movie or it's different from the original, and they go down in quality because the straight to DVD movie that you didn't even know they continue to make it. It's just they want to keep making it so they make money or merchandise or whatever. They can't be like Ice Age or other movies where they make 2 to 3 to 5 movies and they keep the same cast. But Rock Dog 2 doesn't have Owen Wilson or J.K. Simmons or anybody else from those movies. And yeah, the movie is, children will like it. It's about an 80-something minute movie. There's singing, there's music. There are some valuable lessons of not cashing in on fame and leaving your friends behind and leaving your family behind. But then they throw in his grandparents are back. And there's all this other stuff. And, I'm always laughing with the goat, the sheep, who's always in his towel and always late because he showered. It's a funny, clever thing there. And, they have a thing where a wolf dressed in sheep's clothing is interesting in here. And they have some female singer that they work with. It was okay. The music was okay. The children would like it. But there was no need to remake Rock Dog in terms of making a sequel. If you really want to watch Rock Dog, watch the original. Next thing I watched was In the Heights. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, he's supposedly this great singer, songwriter, actor, writer, Broadway star. And somebody told me it's a remake. So I'm like, okay, so I spent 2 hours and almost 20 minutes watching a remake musical, biracial, movie, bilingual movie where Anthony Ramos is okay, and it seems like every single Hispanic actor's in this movie. Jimmy Smits being Hispanic, I didn't know he was. I watched a TV show where he said he's half black. I don't know. And everybody in this movie can supposedly rap. And I'm like, yeah. And they had little cameos of Christopher Jackson from Hamilton / Bull, the show I watched, and other Hamilton characters. Stephanie Beatrice from Brooklyn Nine-Nine was in there. The woman who played George Lopez's mother on St. George was in this movie. And some other actors that I've seen before. So it's like, okay, cool. Let's try to take every single Hispanic actress ever and put them in this movie. And even if you don't recognize their faces, wow, I've seen them. And then they take Mark Anthony, the famous singer. He's in this movie. Dasha Polanco, as I said, I've seen her before, but it's weird to see Stephanie Beatrice in a bikini and working in a salon and being all girly. I know that just proves how good of an actress she is, but it's like, yeah. Oh, yeah, so the woman that plays George Lopez's fake mother, her name is Olga Meredith, and the other Hispanic woman, Daphne Rubin Vega, I've seen those people before, and it was a good story about Anthony Ramos trying to provide for himself and not sure what he wants to do, a love story, and then there's another love story with Jimmy Smits' daughter dropping out of college and her love interest with this black guy. And it was like, okay, cool. And yeah, so I'm just like, okay, you got a love stories in there. It's pretty good. Not the world's worst movie I've ever seen. But overall, it's like, yeah, why go out of your way to remake this movie when, it's already been done before? But all the hype about it, I'm sorry, it's not the world's greatest movie. Then I watched Black Widow, and Black Widow is a character in the Avengers film that everybody's wanting a movie of. They've always been wanting a Mark Ruffalo movie as the Hulk because they've done the Edward Norton and Eric Bana ones and all the other previous attempts, like obviously the TV show with Lou Ferrigno. And people talking about Hawkeye, and they're talking about Nick Cage and all this. Nick Fury, Luke Cage, the other character. And it's like, okay, cool. And they've always had this Black Widow thing where Scarlett Johansson is a Russian assassin spy, and it's like a recruiting thing from the Russians and all this whole Cold War thing. And I did like that David Harbour of Stranger Things, and he was Hellboy, and he's been in other things, that he's like a communist version of Captain America, and he's like a super soldier, so that was cool. Rachel Weisz, she's not believable as a Russian spy, maybe a scientist, but all those like fighting and other things, just not believable. And the fact that her character didn't age was also not believable. William Hurt playing his character again. Okay, that's cool. And everybody's like, oh, what about Florence Pugh? I'm sorry, but her, Scarlett Johansson's, and like David Harbour's and everybody's Russian accents seem horrible and fake. You could have casted a Russian American actor who actually knows how to do an accent. Like, that was annoying. And the movie was, again, like a lot of Marvel movies, a little bit too long. It was an hour. It was 2 hours and like 10 minutes long. There was a few, post-credit scenes. One that resolves the movie and one that's like present day. And it's like, okay, I'm spoiling it. I'm not telling you what happens in the movie, but you got all these Russian assassin spies, and she's got to go back and help her quote unquote old family and fake family, whatever, and stop the person who created her because he's still alive and doing this to other girls. And I was like, I want a Black Widow movie where it shows fully how she became this great spy, assassin, deadly person, or how she got recruited into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and became friends with Hawkeye, and all this other stuff. That would have been cool. But they said, nah, let's do what Star Wars did. Let's make a one-off movie that takes place in between different movies. So this one takes place between, obviously, like after Civil War and the movies with Thanos. Let's put it in the middle there, when like they're not supposed to be heroes and like people are in prison and they can't be superheroes and things like that. So they said, let's just squeeze that in there. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic but if it's a Marvel movie or Scarlett Johansson or everybody's been waiting for this movie. But I'm just like, I really don't know if this is one of the greatest movies. It is a quality film, the production, the fighting scenes, the acting for the most part outside of the fake Russian accent. I liked it. It was pretty good. But it's not going to be a top 10 Marvel film. It's an okay film to the collection. I'm just a little disappointed in the movie a bit because it could have done many different things. And there was also a lot of scenes you could have cut out. And it's funny. You're like, okay, so I see In the Heights and Black Widow, two overhyped movies. I saw the movie 12 Mighty Orphans. And it's based off a true story and event. And it's like, maybe the screenwriter may have, taken some liberties. But I don't know if it's because I like football movies or sports movies as a whole. But the guy who wrote this movie did a very, very, very good job here. Sony did a good job of putting this movie together. And it all helped that Martin Sheen and Robert Duvall were good in supporting role. And Jake Austin Walker, who's Brainwave Jr. from DC Stargirl, which also Luke Wilson is, did a good job. And Luke Wilson is very believable in this role of a blind, like a guy who overcomes blindness and an orphan and a veteran and this great coach. It wasn't just about football. He wanted to give these kids a life after football for them to go on and do different things and prove that orphans weren't bad at that point. Coming up with all these great football, offensive and defensive things that they've never seen before. Like he's an innovator, and this just keeps proving that Luke Wilson is becoming one of the better actors of the last 10, 15 years. That I think he's a better actor than Owen Wilson. I feel like Owen Wilson's been in a few movies here and there that are dramas that are okay, but Owen Wilson's great in those dumb comedy, romantic movies. Like he's been good in those, but Luke Wilson really proved his acting in there. And again, football movie, them trying to win it all, it was pretty good. And I thought this movie was better use of my time, and I enjoyed it way more than the hype movie. So definitely go watch 12 Mighty Orphans. Then I ran out of physical copies, so I watched this movie called Boys vs. Girls. And what it looks like is somebody decided let's take a bunch of high school or college age actors and have a boys camp 1 month and a girls camp. Because the financial, unable to do it, they got to combine them together, and they got to work together. And the camp counselors are supposedly in college get off to a bad start, and it's boys versus girls, and they spend the whole entire summer trying to take the other girls down and make it a girls camp, or take the boys down and make it a boys camp. And they then have to all band together and to save the camp from being destroyed. And there was a horrible acting, horrible writing. None of these characters any of them have really redeeming characters. And of course, some of them are going to sleep with each other. Some of them are going to have romantic interludes with each other. And the only actor in this movie, and I wouldn't consider even like an actor, because Colin Mochrie is known for Whose Line Is It Anyway and playing the gay guy in the Drew Carey show. But Kevin McDonald is a creep in this movie like he always is. But again, if you can get those two guys as your main cast, then it's like a high schooler made this movie. And I would only watch it if you have nothing to do and you want to watch a very short hour, 20-minute movie with credits, like on a streaming site. The next thing I watched was Still Today. And, it was way better than what I watched, but it was not the great movie, not great acting, not great writing. It supposedly had some famous people in the movie, but, I I don't really get it. Like, Terry Weibel is the main woman in the movie, and Jodie Thompson, the dude, is the main guy. Mark Osworth, people said they've seen him before. But basically, what this movie is this woman leaves him at the altar, and he's there with his friends mourning his losses, and they say, he's got a hotel room. Mark Osworth's character, who's the degenerate, goes, well, I know these models who are sometimes like hookers and all this other stuff, and here's the number, but it costs a lot of this money. And he just doesn't want to be alone that night. So, of course, he calls this woman up and then goes, I'm not really looking into sex, but let's just hang out. I'll make a deal with you. And they go have like a fun night. They go bowling. They go to a crappy diner. They do all these things together. And then he realizes he never really loved his wife. They got to throw in his ex-wife coming back in the middle of the movie and saying things are okay. And he's really like, no, you left me at the altar. Like, I don't need to be with you. And they throw in the father-in-law, the guy, the ex-fiance's father, being there and saying, I paid for this wedding, that's my cake, what are you doing here, blah, 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 blah. Got to throw those little cliches in. And then he throw in the cliche that he realizes he really likes this girl, and done the view as a hooker, stripper, or whatever, and he actually wants to be interested in her. And I'm like, okay, good. And then why is it called Still Today? Is because they said you still have today, the rest of your wedding day, because probably the wedding was supposed to take in the middle of the afternoon, early evening, and it's whole entire night, and it's only like an hour and 27-minute movie. But it was horrible. It's one of these movies where you watch it getting streaming, you don't have a lot of time, and you don't want to watch something too long. Then I watched Getting to Know You, which is, I feel like they did a lot better job at writing this movie. Like, I don't know if, Still Today was a Canadian movie, but again, it's like a streaming movie. This one, it was a Canadian movie because it took place in Canada. Rupert Perry-Jones comes to his high school reunion, and they're at this crappy hotel. And the funny thing about this rom-com, because I can say I like rom-com, so obviously Still Today and Getting to Know Your rom-coms, but it's like this hotel is crappy. They barely have any wait staff. Then there's like one of the people working there is in a relationship with one person but sleeps with another, so they got to throw that love triangle into the movie. And the movie is basically, he tries to get back with his longtime, his ex-high school girlfriend because but then she's married, but she's all drunk and trying to sleep with her, and he doesn't want to break up a marriage. He's not really that interested in her. So this woman who comes into town, who's there to bury her brother, and they hang out, and he's like, I just want to get away from this woman, and the two of them hang out, and it turns into this whole cliche of maybe they're falling for each other, but she's married back home in England with a husband and kids, and all these other things, and you're just saying to yourself, like, okay, they've known each other for like 2 days. She helped him by pretending to be the wife, taking the drunk woman back to her place to find out that she's married and he knows the person, to go into the funeral with her for her brother and nobody else was there, that the pastor's his longtime buddy, supposedly, and everybody in the small town of Canada knew who he was, and helped clean out her brother's home, and not really knowing her brother that well because they haven't talked to each other in years. And as I said, you got the love triangle in the hotel. The only humor is about how bad the hotel is run, but then to go like, I love you, but I've known you for 2 days, and I don't know if us being in the hotel together is a good idea because we're going to have sex with each other, so let's go somewhere where we're not going to have sex, and then kiss you because your crazy ex-girlfriend kissed me and I wanted to kiss another person, and all this other stuff. Very cliche, very formulaic, horribly put together, but it was way more watchable than Still Today or Boy vs. Girl. But again, I don't know what's wrong with a guy and a girl just being friends with each other. They don't have to have this romantic interlude, but yeah, so Getting to Know You, Still Today, okay rom-coms to watch them. Boys vs. Girls is just a waste of your time. And as I said, 12 Mighty Orphans was the best movie I watched. It was probably one of the best movies I watched in the last month or two. Black Widow, everybody's going to watch it because it's a Marvel film. We've been waiting for a Scarlett Johansson movie. In the Heights is all this hype. So I'm not saying don't watch In the Heights because you'll enjoy it. It's an enjoyable movie. Black Widow's an enjoyable movie. It's just not the world's greatest. And Rock Dog 2 is enjoyable for kids. Thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews Observations number 86. For On the Radar Entertainment Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.